Hello, so here we are with our next video. So from today onwards we're gonna enter into our mainstream programming. That's like we're gonna start with a language today, that's C programming. And well, hope you all are liking our videos of Digital Overmorrow. So, and we are getting positive reviews, so, and also some complaints that our videos are becoming too long, so it might distract our viewers. So today onwards we have decided that we will make shorter videos, and we'll make videos on topics, on different topics, not in videos. We'll cover up topics in different videos, not in a single one. So the things will be shorter and conceptual. That's the thing. So let us start with C language. So in order to understand a language, we first need to clear out all our queries about algorithms and flowcharts, because those are the backbone of coding actually. So we must need to be super good at algorithm and flowchart so that we could understand that how a code is working actually. Then we should move to a language. So today we are moving into C language. So this is the actual coding that we do inside the computer to make it run the way I want. So every C program starts with this thing. Hash include stdio.h. Now what is this thing? This .h is known as the, this whole thing known as the header file. This .h denotes that this thing is a header file. We call it a header file. So what is a header file? A header file is a kind of inbuilt file which is, when declared here, it can perform functions inside the C program. Functions like what? Functions like input, output, and then again some macros. Macros actually means some system defined constants, like some values which can't be changed. So those things can be declared by this file, and the input output functions. Now what is the input output function? So previously we did algorithms and flowcharts, right? So there, in case of flowcharts, we did something that is called a parallelogram, which was a input output box. So what is the input output box? An input output box, always it takes input or it prints the output. So this thing is performed by some functions inside a code, right? Because inside a code we can't draw this, like we can't draw this kind of stuff, like we can't draw the processing box, like which was in rectangle. We can't draw this parallelogram, right? So we have to denote this all the stuffs in form of coding, right? So here some functions are needed. Some functions are like, those are actually codes. Those are actually codes, but we call it function because it is doing some kind of function that it is made up. Like for which it is made up of. So every C code is always starts with this thing, this expression, which we call as header file, including header file inside the code. Next comes something that we call main, or more specifically void main. So what is this thing? So main is, or void main is a function, is an inbuilt function which is also defined in this header file. Inside this function, the main code is written, whether it's a summation of two numbers, whether it's printing hello world 10 times, whether it's doing linked list, whether it's doing stack. Everything is done inside this function. Printing, processing, and all kind of works that you want to do, that you want your code to do, all codes are written inside this, and this function works. Like, this is the actual backbone of the function, of the code actually. So this main, as we call a main function, that's what is the backbone of the C language, right? Now another function. Now we are talking about functions that work, that is inbuilt functions, that inbuilt basic functions actually that works inside this C language, which are, so they list it out. First one is this one, this is main. Second one is the most basic, that is small p. Everything here is should be denoted in small letters, no caps, only small. Printf, right. So this is a print function. What does it do? It does the same work of this rhombus. It actually does the output work. The output work of the rhombus. The rhombus, in case of flowcharts, we knew that rhombus actually does both input and output. So the output function, whether it's a printing of anything, like showing the computer is showing something to us, that displaying thing is done inside this stuff, this printf function. I want my computer to show me hello world. So what will I do? I will simply write printf, then a parenthesis, bracket, and inside this I will give colons, and inside this I will write like hello, and well, I don't have space, so I'm doing something like this, hello world, and end, the brackets end, and a colon to end the function. That's how a function works. This is the function name. Inside the function, what it will do, hello world, colon end, and then the function end by a semicolon. That's how we write a function in a C code. Like, more specifically, that's how we write a printf function in a C code, right? This thing will display like hello world, simply hello world. That's what I wanted my computer to do, right? So the thing is done. Next function, like today we'll talk about these two functions only, and we will do a bit of coding. Maybe I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. Then from the next video onwards, we will move on to next topics, from looping to if else statements and all that kind of stuff. So, alright, so next, what function is left for this rhombus? That is the input function. In case of rhombus, like in case of flowcharts, we did some examples like the summation of two numbers, and what we had to do, we had to give the computer 2 numbers. The computer had to take the 2 numbers, then it had to process the numbers, like whether it's a summation or multiplication or subtraction, anything else. So it had to process the thing, and then it had to print. it had to display to us. That display thing is done by this. If we had to display the summation of two numbers, we had to give the same function only. So this is the main display function, right? So another function that we call it that input function that we call scanf. Same thing. Now this thing has something to do with integers and variables. So let me give it a bracket. So this. So firstly, before coding, we have to be familiar with what is a variable and what is a constant. We all know what is a variable and what is a constant, right? So let me clarify again. So what is a variable? A variable is a value, whether it's a or b. A variable actually denoted by a and b. Like not only a and b, it can be a, b, c, d up to z, or Latin words, or lambdas, theta, or any kind of stuff. A variable can be anything, but not a number. Now what is a number? Like we know the numeric tables, right? 1 to 100, 1 to 200 and kind of stuff. Those are what we call as numbers, numeric numbers. Now the numbers have a constant value, right? We can't change the value of 1. We can't change the value of 5. We can't change the value of 500, right? What 500 is, 500 will remain that way only. I can't change the 500. I can't make 500 lesser than 400. I can't make 400 lesser than 300, or I can't make 300 greater than 500 or 400, right? So the values of these numbers are always constant, right? So that what we call a constant, the values that which we can't change. As we know, the graph of constant generally goes like this: no change. It only goes same with the time if we give it a time and x coordinate. And for variable, it can be anything. It can be like this, or it can be like that, any kind of stuff. It's a variable, right? Because I'm varying the values. I'm making my own graph of the variable, right? So that's what is a basic difference between a constant and a variable. So today we're going to discuss with some data types, and then we will move on to this function, because first you need to know what kind of data types are used, right? So the data types that are used in in C language, I will name some. I'll not name all, because I'll name those data types that we're gonna use today for implementing some codes. So data types are specifically, we can differ, right? So we can between 5 and 6.75. There's a difference, right? 5 is a whole 5 number, and 6.75 is a decimal number because it has something after the point, right? So that's the difference. 5 is an integer and 6.75 is a decimal number. Again, the values like A, B, C, D, these are characters, right? These don't have any values. ABCD doesn't have any values. ABCD is not 5. So ABCD are characters, are English characters. I told during a discussion of high-level language or mid-level language that in case of coding, so we're gonna use natural language in order to make coding. That's why it is a high-level language, not a machine-level language. We don't have to do codes with 0001 or 1011 like that. So this is what is a data type. What is a data type? Data types can be of different types. Firstly, data types can be of integer. Integer, for example, 5, 6, 7, 100, 1 million. etc. Next data type that we're going to discuss is float. What is a float example? 6.75, 5.89, 5.00, 9.16. These are float variables. Like, float are variables which considers something in decimal, right? But integers doesn't consist anything in doesn't accept anything in decimal. Like in decimal. It only accepts things which are in a perfect integer. That is 5. Nothing against that. Only 6. Nothing against that. So that's what is integer, that we denote in C language as int, small int, as int, and float in small f, loat. Right? Now another kind of variable is that I think I shouldn't discuss about this variable right today, because I won't give any examples regarding that, because it's a bit higher, but first you need to know all the basics kind of stuff. But alright, I'm saying, but that is what we call char, which denotes all the characters. Like, what kind of characters? Characters can be of any kind of, which is A, B, C, D, dollar, percentage, hashtag, any kind of stuff that I want to enter inside the computer. But those things shouldn't be any number. Those things shouldn't have any specific values. Those things shouldn't be any number or a floating point. It only works with characters which can be modulo, dollar, asterisk, A, B, C, D up to Z, Latin words, any kind of stuff. So that's what a character data type is. In later classes we will discuss about how much memory and all these things occupy, and float and integers occupy how much memories, and also today I just want to introduce you with this kind of stuff. So, like, what are the basics of C language and all. So here then we'll move to scanf. So scanf, like I told, it will take input. Now if I want my computer to take input of an integer, for example, if I want my computer to take input of 5 is denoted as %d and a. Now what is this thing? Sorry, it will be and a. Actual code, like, I want my computer to enter some value, any value that I want to give it to it. So I want to give some integer value. I don't want to go into float or character kind of stuff. So I want to give a very simple integer value. So how will the function look like? The function will look like very similar, like to this. It will be like scanf bracket this and %d, and then I will close this colon and then comma and a. Now for storing any kind of value that I have entered inside the computer, we basically need a variable. Whether it's A, B, C, D or any kind of, because I need to store my value inside something, right? I need to store the value of 5 inside a variable. So I need a variable which I have given here as A, and I have to do this function. Now what is this %d doing? Now this %d is the basic thing which is used only for integer purpose, right? Like we can't use %d for float intake, right? So we can't do percentage d for character input. So percentage d is only and only for intaking or in case of displaying integers only. Okay. So now, what is the work of this percentage d? This percentage d actually identifies that what you have given as input is an integer or not. If it's an integer, it will intake that thing. It is called as identifier. It will identify whether it's an integer or not. I can give any values inside a, right? I can give a float value, or even I can give a character value inside this a variable, right? So if it's a float value, I obviously don't want my computer to show any float value, right? So if the value is only and only integer, then only this scanf will take place, because this identifier, the thing that I have denoted here, this thing only works for identifying any integer value that I have given as input. If it's an integer value, it takes in and then it stores it inside a. Now what is this %a that I have written here? This is actually %a. %a is actually doing the main thing. Actually, the %a is actually making a space for taking the value in. %a is actually making a space in the memory so that it can take the value inside, whether I am giving input as 5 or 6. If I am giving input as 5, it will take the value inside it and it will store as 5. Or if I want my computer to take inside 6, then it will store the value 6 inside this storage box. So that's what the thing is doing. So that's what we call basic of C language. Just today is the introduction class, so I don't want to go in deep into it, and from the next onwards video we will go deeper and deeper. So I wanted to make the video short, and so I will finish this thing up to this, and after completing 2 examples obviously. So I hope you guys have understand that what these functions are doing, right? And I guess 1 or 2 examples will make it more clear. So, and obviously I will show you that how it is running inside the computer. So okay, so let's do 2 or 3 examples, right? Let's first start with a very basic one that I always do with beginners, that is printing hello world, right? So how will I do? So what I told from the first video that all C code starts with #include stdio.h. That is, and I forgot to tell that stdio means standard input output. Standard input output. It will perform all the functions regarding input outputs, and I told that it will perform the macros and all which have constant values inside the codes, and right. So that's what is a header file is. So let's go on with our codes. So printing hello world. So obviously the first line should be #include stdio.h. Right. So then what is my code? I have to print hello world, right? So I don't have to take any inputs, I don't have to do any kind of work, I just have to print the stuff. So the code should be printf hello world. That's it, right? But I haven't given the main thing that I told previously. I hope you guys have identified what I'm talking about. So the backbone of the code, obviously, that is the main. There's a main function inside which I had to do all the code, right? So how the main functions look like? Called void main parenthesis, and inside this parenthesis I had to write all the code. So I haven't given any main function right here, so I'll give it main parenthesis open, parenthesis close, and the code is done. And more specifically, I should call it void main. We can do it both. You can write main or void main or int main or any other stuff. So that's what the code looks like. The code of hello world, just 3-line code, like what the basic one. So I think I should show you that how it works inside the computer. So okay, let me shift to computer only, so you'll get a better idea about coding and all. So here's a computer. So here is the code of hello world that I just wrote on that piece of paper. So here's the same thing that I wrote there. Hash include stdio.h, which is the header file that I told, and main function, like I wrote on the paper like void main, but here I'm using defc compiler to write the code, and in defc compiler this void main is not supported. So a simple main will work. So I've just written that main bracket open bracket close, and inside the parenthesis the code, the work that the computer will do, that is hello world. This is the simplest code ever. So let's run it, and I hope you have recognized all the functions here. Main function, printf function to print, semicolon to end the function, and this is the header file, like I told, standard input output .h. Let's compile and run. Now here, when you press the compile and run, you have to save the file with some name. I save it at h1 or h1, like, you know, save. So here my code is running. Yeah, hello world, it is printed. That's all. That's what I wanted the computer to do. So I make the computer to do that. So done, there's the code. So now let's check out another code. Let's I've already written the code, so let's paste it there. Yeah, this is the code that I just wrote a few minutes ago. So it's a very easy code. Here what the computer is doing is, I want the computer to take inside two variables, like two numbers, and to print the summation, the subtraction, the product, and the division of the numbers. So now let us first analyze the code. So what I want my computer to do, I want my computer to prompt expression like enter the first number. It is doing that via the statement, the printf statement. Then I will enter the number. The computer is taking the number as scanf. Now what is this %f? Like while I was talking about data types and all, I told that what is the difference with what is the use of %t, right? %t is used for identifying the element that I have inserted into the computer as integer or a character or any kind of other variables. Similarly, %f is also used to identify the input as a floating point. Floating pointer means, like, if I want to enter some value of like 1.33, %d won't help, because %d only takes a whole value like 1, 2, 3, no, nothing other than that, nothing after the point, only a whole decimal value or an integer value, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 101, 102, nothing after the point, 101.00, like only a fixed value. But in case of floating point, floating pointer I can give any kind of value: 1.00, 1.33, 1.55, 2.88, 9912, anything. So that's why I have taken the floating variable percentage f. Then I want my computer to ask me for the second number. It will say that enter the second number. I did that with this code, printf enter the second number. Then it will ask me for scanf, like I have to give the second number, right? Now, like when I talked about flowcharts and algorithms, when I talked about codings, I told that during the summation, if I want to process any number or process any value inside the computer, I need some specific variables in order to store the datas. In order to store the datas, which we have to process inside the computer. Like if I want to add two numbers, if I want to add 3 and 4, then for the computer I need to store the values of 3 and 4 inside a variable, and then I have to sum the variable. Like I have taken here floating variables. Now this statement is defining what kind of variables a, b, s and sub and m are, right? I can do this like that. Yeah, let me delete it. It's the same thing. I'm deleting the other value. It is just extending the lines, nothing more than that. So I have taken the d inside the same statement. So here I am defining a as a floating type variable, defining b as a floating type variable, and all the variables are defined as a floating type variable. Means if I want to store any value inside these variables, those values should be floating type values. For example, 2.5, 7.5, 9.8, 112, 1.2, anything. Those are floating or decimal points. So, but I could have taken integer, obviously, but in case of integer, like we denote it as integer type variable, we have to change all these values to d, obviously, because percentage f is only for floating variables. But if I even if I take int and do this and run the whole code without changing this f, so the answers that we will get is 0, because it won't take any value inside, because as it will only identify floating variables, and it won't print any kind of values here, as because here is also I have to print floating type variables. I didn't write about percentage d. So if I want to do some code with floating f, then I have to take the whole code in floating f, right? So I'm taking it as float. So a is a float, b is a float. All the variables that I have declared here, these are the variables actually. These variables all are floating type. I've inserted here, and I discussed what is the function of this scanf, what is it actually doing, what is the function of this and %b and all. It is just allocating memory to store the value of p inside the memory box. So now if I want to add a and b, then a result will come, obviously, because 1 plus 3 equals to 4, and the 4 is a result. And now to print the 4, I need to store that 4 inside some variable that I have stored inside s. Here I have written s equals to a plus b, means the value that will come after adding a plus b. A can be any number, b can be any number. Then the value that will come after adding, it will be stored inside this s. Similarly, in every cases for m, sum and d, the results will be stored inside sub, m and d. Now I think things are clear till now. Now I have to print those things, like I have done the processing work, I have done what to do, I have told the computer what to do, where to store, I have told the computer everything. Now I have to tell the computer to print it the way I want. I want the computer to print like summation colon and the value of and the result of summation. Then I want my computer to print in the next line subtraction, the value of the result, subtraction colon and the value of the result. Then again next line the product. Then again next line the division. That's what I want my computer to do. So I have to make the computer do that. Printf statement. I have already told what is the basic functions of printf statement. So now summation is only a prompt, nothing different. I can write it anything. I can write it addition also. It won't make any difference. I can write addition colon. Now what is this percentage f doing? This percentage f is printing the floating value of s, because s is a floating type variable, right? So the value that will be stored inside s will be also a floating type variable. If 1 plus 3 equals to 4, then the value that will be stored inside s, that will be 4.00. that is a floating type thing. So to print that floating type variable, we need a floating type identifier. So that similarly in case of integers, if s was an integer type, then we had to write %d. But here if we write %d after declaring s as a float, then the value will be 0, nothing will be printed, right? Similarly in this case of similarly the case is the same for subtraction, product and division. And after writing %f, we have to give this comma and write the variable name that we want to print. I want to print the summation, and summation I have denoted by s, so I have to print the s. I have to denote the subtraction, which is also a floating type variable, so I have declared %f, and then I have written the variable name of sub, right? Now what is this thing doing? This thing is actually, and more specifically, this variable name should be out of this colon box, this colon thing. Then we should write a comma and then this s, like the variable name. We don't have to write the s or the variable names inside this colon thing, right? So now the next thing is, what is this stuff doing? This \n. This \n is actually helping to print these whole stuffs line by line. If we don't give this \n, then it will be printed like addition %f, addition 4, then again side by side subtraction, then again side by side product, then again side by side division. But I don't want it. It doesn't look good actually. So I want my computer to print like addition, then next line subtraction, then again next line product, and then next line division. So that next line prompt is given by %n. This %n is actually giving the next line prompt. It is actually telling the computer to print it next line. So let's start. Let's compile. Which is running, obviously it's compiling. So enter the first number. The computer is asking for the first number, like I wanted it to do. So let's take it 2. Enter the second number. Let's take it 4. See, things are absolutely perfect. Addition 6, 2 plus 4 is 6, like 6.00, because it is a floating point variable, so it will print 6.00 only. It won't print 6. If I would have done the whole code in integer, then things would have been printed like 6 minus 2, 8, 0 and 0, obviously 0, because the things that is after the point, that won't be printed. Therefore 2 divided by 4 will be printed as 0 only, not 0.5. I have taken floating point, that's why only this 0.5 is being printed. So I hope the things are understandable till now. And now if I want this thing to be a one line gap, like after the enter the second number, there should be a one line gap after the result, right? And I also want to write the there is a caption, a subheading like result and all, so we can do that. So let's do it. It's very simple. Printf, let's hit the subheading, resql, sorry, lt, let's do it, backslash n, backslash n, 2 times backslash n. That means it will give a 2-line gap, and I want a 1-line gap between this enter the second number and result. Let's print. Alright, I have to give a semicolon. Don't forget it, because without this semicolon the things won't run. So let's start. It is compiling. See, 2 and 4 and 3. Yeah, things are working perfectly. There's a 2-line gap between result, there's 1 gap between this enter the second number and result. So that's it for today, and from the next day onwards we're going to start with if-else statement, and then we'll move into loops, then structures, then arrays, and all big or large things are left. This is just the beginning. So hope you liked our video, and please subscribe, share it more and more, hit a like, hit the bell icon, do whatever. Comment if you want more, comment for suggestions. We need suggestions because it's a very new channel. So alright, you're free to comment anything. So alright, have a nice day and enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed our video, and stay with us. Thank you.